What's up, guys? So now that we have determined what a biblical view of work is, and we have converted our business or started a kingdom business, now it's time to start creating systems. So I'll give you an example. So one of the things that I did, I bought a business, and when I bought that business, it's a little different or a whole lot different than whenever you start a business. But I came in and I started to learn that business for the first 6 months, and I'm still learning the business to this day. But specifically spent 6 months learning the business. That way I could spend the time after that coming up with systems and creating an order in my shop and within meetings and within everything that I was doing, so that then I would create a culture that would be unparalleled. So here's the reason why order and systems are important. Everything that I do, I will always revert to Scripture, because that's where I find all the power comes from, is in Scripture. So 1 Corinthians, this is just one verse that illustrates order and the importance of order. But it's 1 Corinthians 14:33. And it says, "For God is not a God of confusion, but of peace." So when we have an understanding that of who God is, and we go all the way back to the very beginning of time, and we read Genesis, and we see how God had an order of how He created everything, and then we look at Noah and how Noah built the ark, and God gave him exact instructions of how he was supposed to do that. There was order. We look at Moses and how God used Jethro to have him delegate tasks. And through the delegation, that provided a system of order. And through that order, it allowed for Moses to focus on all the high ticket items, if you will, and then the rest of his people to focus on the other items that may have been just as important to the people, but it was important to keep Moses in a position to where he could focus on the Lord and focus on taking the big things to the Lord, and then the other guys could focus on the smaller things, if you will. The other thing is, when we look at Nehemiah, we see Nehemiah had order to how he rebuilt the wall. And through that order, he was able to build the wall in 52 days when nobody else could. And part of that order was he had his guys with one hand on their sword and then one hand on the shovel. So they were always ready for what was coming while they were always working. So they were very self-aware. They were always on guard. So these are scriptural references to why order and having systems is so critical in our day-to-day life. So I'll give you an example of somebody that I know that does not have order and does not have systems. So every single time that I am with this individual, there's always hair on fire. And as a result of that, then there's never any order to anything that we are doing. And you'll show up to hang out, or you'll show up to do something, and that's whenever everything gets figured out. It's the day that the work is supposed to be done versus figuring it out the day before or the weeks before, and typing it out or writing it out and having a system to be able to be effective in your day. Because then this falls into stewardship and how we are to steward our time, and how we are to literally move into a position of just stewardship of everything that God has entrusted us with. So why are systems so important? That is so that we can step away from working in our business to working on our business. Because a lot of times systems, or before we create systems, our businesses can just overwhelm us, and we can feel just bogged down and feel this cloud over us until we start to create order and create systems within the business. So when we start to create systems within the business, that's whenever we start to experience this freedom from our business. And then what I encourage always is surrender every single thing over to the Lord. So all of this starts with surrender. So what I do is I spend a lot of times up in the mountains. I live right by the mountains here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I spend a lot of times one-on-one with the Lord up in the mountains, and God will give me direct downloads of every single system that I created within the business. And so all the way from sales systems to follow-up systems to shop systems, assembly lines, and then I take that mentality to new projects, because when you start a new project, you may not have your systems or order dialed in. Now you can always stop before you start and apply some order, but those systems will come after you've done it a couple of times. Then you can apply systems to it that is going to take a project from taking a month to taking 2 weeks. And it's beautiful, because then that shaves off, that gives you the ability to build more jobs or to do more work. It also gives you the ability to cut on cost as well. So how we create systems is I go in and I will do a task. I'll do it maybe a couple of times. And before I start that task, I will sit down and I'll review everything in detail. And when I'm reviewing everything in detail, I'm kind of creating some order for the project. I create deadlines. I have an end goal, and then I have a start goal in mind. And then I have all these deadlines in between there. And this is just applying order to the project. And then through that, once I get done building one and get into the second one, then I'm able to apply some systems. So as an example of that, we manufacture pools out of shipping containers and through one of my businesses. And what we do is I've created this assembly line within my shop. And you basically will take the end result and you'll start to dissect that and reverse engineer that. And what I've done is I've have sections for things that are being done. I basically have 3 departments of things that are being done. So part of that is welding, then it moves into painting and insulating, and then it moves into the finish work, which includes plumbing and electrical and those items. And so when I got every single item that was going to be required to complete the project, I then divided those items into sections, which gave me those 3 sections I just mentioned. And then I created a system within my shop that was this assembly line system to where it starts over here and then it goes right in line and it follows this order all the way until the pool gets wrapped and gets shipped and shipped across the country. And whenever I did that, that allowed for me to create more space in my shop to where I at one time could fit 6 pools. And then because of the vision that the Lord had given me on creating this system, I was able to get 14 pools at one time in my shop. And then through that, I was able to take build times and cut build times down significantly because of that. So when we're creating systems on a simpler scale, I'll give you another example. When we are building or making a t-shirt or have a sales team, I start with the goal, with deadlines in place and quotas in place. And then out of that, I start thinking through every item that is going to help the sales team succeed. So, and then I type it all out. I give them the exact 1 through 10, the order of events. That way they will always have that to reflect on. And then I give them, out of those 1 through 10, they have bullet points of when you do this, then you do this. When you do this, then you do this. And so that way it simplifies that for whoever comes on and is a part of that sales team. And so in doing that, then when that sales team launched, it allowed for us to be able to track some KPI because we already had our quotas in mind. We already had the end goal for the week, for the day, for the month, for the quarter, and for the year. And when we did that, then the end goal, we applied those daily and weekly and monthly goals and then created the system outside of that. So here's when you follow up. Here's when you follow up with them, apply this tag, and then that will automatically send a text message out. So I want to encourage everybody to start looking for ways that you can systematize your business. And when you systematize your business, put it on paper. And I would encourage everybody to use Google Sheets to do that. So get it all mapped out on Google Sheets. And if you have different sections within your business, use the tabs on the bottom to create different sections. So if you have a sales team, have a sales team tab. If you have a HR department, have an HR tab. And then have their whole processes laid out there. And then those processes, that's what you create the system out of. And then number it. And then have that available to your team and to who's completing the task. And I promise you, when you do that, you'll start to notice that your day-to-day costs will start to shrink. And then the ability, your team's ability will increase because they know exactly what they're doing. They know where they're headed. They know where they're going. They know how to get there. And because of that, they're able to accomplish the goals in a timely manner. So just want to encourage everybody in that. And if you have any other ideas or any input, I would love to hear from you. I will get into a more detailed system down the road of exactly how I do that. I'll share an Excel spreadsheet that goes through all of that. But in a nutshell, dissect it, start at the very beginning, go to the very end, and then create all of your tasks in between there, and then the how-tos for each one of those tasks. Put that on Google Sheet, use the tabs at the bottom, and then start to add to. As you're going through and you notice things need to be added, just add them or take them away, and watch how you will experience a freedom within your business that you have not been able to experience before, solely because you know what you're doing, you know where you're headed, and your teams know what they're doing and they know where they're headed because you chose to invest in your business by creating systems.